No,
Captain.
no, I mean it.
No
Seriously, huge.
Knock it off.
Huge.
What?
You've never
You're
seen
running,
anything like this. No.
You're running
Like a
5,
Moldavian
4.
panther beast huge.
Come on, no way.
I'm serious. Yes, good evening and welcome to PrimetimeUGC. I'm your host, CaptPFDennis, and I'm here with my co-host, Rogue Enterprise. We're sure you're going to love our show tonight. We have a really special lineup for you. We've got not one, but 2 interviews in this episode, plus our usual segments. Rogue will tell you more about it.
That's right.
Huge,
We've got a very
I'm
full show tonight. Besides our usual news, feature requests, and mission listings, we have an author interview with Soriedem and a review of his mission, The Fires of Prometheus. Later, we have a very special guest. We're going to have a conversation with H2O Rat, the man who brings us the wonderful trailers we see from Star Trek Online.
Including that awesome video for the 2nd anniversary of Star Trek Online. We're liable to go a bit long tonight with everything we're cramming into this episode. Hope you don't mind. Well, why would you mind? There's nothing better on, is there?
Not a chance. Not with this week's guest list. So let's jump right in for a look at the latest information we've got about our favorite pastime, the Foundry.
And because of our special show this week, we're going to skip a couple of our segments, but they will be right back in the next episode. Stay tuned. Hello, I am Solicitor Breath. Have you been injured in a transporter accident? Or maybe some careless hoarder rubbed against you in the turbo lift someplace, causing 3rd-degree burns? How about all those terrible viruses that alien visitors bring with them to your planet? It's enough to make your lobes itch. Well, I'm here to tell you that you could be entitled to gold-pressed latinum, and a lot of it. Like the 182nd rule of acquisition states, if all else fails, sue. That's where I come in. I will fight to my last breath to get us the latinum you deserve, or at least what you can get. Just listen to Mr. Bollock, one of my clients.
It's true. My wife and I were finally able to get away to Riza for a well-earned vacation. We arrived as planned and beamed down from a Bolian transport vessel with the rest of the passengers. When we reached the surface, one of my kidneys had been replaced with some Andorian woman's carry-on bag. Later that night, a lifeguard had to pry my missing kidney out of a stray targ's mouth. It really put a damper on the whole vacation. Somebody had to pay, and Solicitor Brand made sure they did.
Thank you, Mr. Bollock. I know how terrible it was for you. But I'm glad I could help you get the justice you deserved. The transport owner took care of all Mr. Bollock's medical expenses and extended hospital stay. And I didn't even collect a single slip of latinum, thanks to Mrs. Bollock and her talent for umox. And remember, if I don't win, you don't pay much.
Brand, he'll fix your problem if he can. Oh, Brand, for compensation, he's your man.
On our Primetime UGC author interview this week, we are fortunate to have another great author, a great guy, and one of the hardest working people I have ever known. Welcome, please, Soriedem. All right, sorry. First question. When did you start playing Star Trek Online? And more importantly, when did you get into the Foundry?
I started playing Star Trek Online back in beta. I played it for like 3 days, and then I knew I was hooked. Got a lifetime and been playing pretty much every day since. As soon as I found out about the Foundry, the moment it hit Tribble, I was there. And I was working on creating missions.
And then you had a mission chosen as a spotlight on the Star Trek Online forums.
That's correct. For Unholy Alliances 1.
Well, that must have been a big honor for you.
It certainly was. I was very surprised by the whole thing and very grateful that people had enjoyed it that much.
Now, from which Star Trek series were you most inspired?
Oh, that's a difficult question because they're all so very inspiring. For that particular series, it was Voyager. I've done other stories that are that focus on the different series as well. That, off the top of my head, Come Babel or High Water, the mission or the inspiration for that mission came about the TOS episode concerning Babel. Also, Enterprise, they did a Babel mission as well. So that's where the inspiration for that particular mission came from. But I find a lot of inspiration just by rewatching Trek, and that's one thing that I do in my spare time is just rewatch Trek over and over again.
What do you feel is the most important element when authoring a mission? Is it the story? Is it the amount of combat? Is it the construction, the maps, etc.?
My philosophy has changed, surprisingly enough, since I first began. At first, I thought story was everything. And the early versions of Unholy Alliances had very little combat. Come Babel or High Water and Clouded Intentions also have very little combat. But I've noticed that lately, combat does make things move a little bit quicker, does make things a little bit more fun, so I've been trying to incorporate some more combat into my missions. My Klingon missions, The Fires of Prometheus and a Klingon Honor Carol, are heavy combat missions, but I do not skip or pinch on the story. I have to have a good story in order to put together a mission.
Who do you write your missions for?
Well, I write the missions for me. They're stories that I would like, that I want to tell. I always appreciate, getting feedback and finding out what people think and how I can try to improve not only that mission, but all of the missions that I write. In fact, that's where the idea of adding, trying to add a little more combat into my missions came from, was from reviews and whatnot that people gave me. So I think it's important to write for ourselves, but we should not ignore or take the people who do play the missions for granted.
Which is your favorite?
Until I started writing Klingon missions, I would have said Unholy Alliance is one. 3 is also really good, but after making a few Klingon missions...
Oh, that must be a lot of fun for you.
Oh, very much so. I think I'm going to be doing many, many more.
In addition to writing Foundry missions, you also enter the Literary Challenge and the STO forums, and the contests that are run on the G&T show. Is it fair to say that you love to write?
Yes, and I'm also a writer for the Gates of Sto-vo-kor podcast. That's actually where my love of Klingons came from, was through the Gates of Sto-vo-kor, exploring, the Klingon faction and trying to get to know better what it means to be Klingon. And the more I've learned, the more I enjoy. I'm enjoying that side of the game.
And how did the Gates of Sto-vo-kor start? I mean, where did that all begin?
Well, I was noticing a trend. All of the podcasts that were appearing were all very identical to each other. I mean, even Stoked, which was the only video podcast available, was very similar, at least in format and style, to Podcast UGC, to the Priority One guys, and even Red Shirt Army. It was very, very similar. I wanted to explore the Klingons I wanted to do something different with them. And I've always been a big fan of old-timey radio shows, those radio dramas. So I thought, why not tell a Klingon or have a Klingon podcast that showed people what it meant to be Klingon, and to explore the game through the eyes of some of those players. So I made a post on the forums and got a few responses. We started talking, writing scripts, and started putting together our first episodes. And eventually we found a professional editor who helped us out. And then we've just slowly been growing and gaining momentum. It's been a fun experience. It is a lot of hard work.
Did Cryptic approach you to do the 2-year anniversary, or did you propose that to Cryptic?
Good question. Let's see. That, for Gates of Sto-vo-kor, we had already a script that we were writing for the letter. We had received a letter to the Federation from a listener that we wanted to air. So we built a script around that. Then Ryza had contacted me saying that they were planning a launch party for the Odyssey as well as the Bortas, and they would like us to kind of host the KDF celebration. In an evening of fervent rewrite, we ended up banging out a new script, all last minute, sent it over to our editor and begged him, please don't hate us. And he knocked it out of the park. But yeah, we got approached by Ryza to get involved with that, and then we had talked to Brandon and a few others to see if we can get him to do the voiceover for the announcer. Captain Logan was our first choice. Figured Brandon would also be a great pick because, he's community manager. So we asked both of them. Didn't get a response, but all being last minute and all, didn't really expect one. So we contacted CaptPFDennis, and he graciously provided the voiceover for that part.
It was a lot of fun.
So, well, you did a great job. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
That's pretty much how that all happened. It was all very last minute, very surprising, and we were thrilled to have the opportunity and the way that everything turned out. It was fantastic.
Again, there's Foundry, Gates of Sto-vo-kor, your mission authoring, literary challenges, the running of the G&T website, its maintenance, and all the editing. How do you possibly find the time for all of this?
Well, I'm self-employed, so that gives me, I make my own schedules. I'm in the IT field, and primarily I repair computers for residential, commercial customers in my area. Most of the time, I'm just waiting for jobs. So I'm not the kind of guy that likes to sit still. I have to be working on something, otherwise I go stir crazy. So I focus on a project, get it done, move on to the next one, and that's how I've always been. So with GNT, and Gates, and even Star Trek Reunion, I want to focus on those, so I focus on those, get the job done, move on to the next project. Yeah, that's how I'm able to find time, I suppose.
If you could pick just one feature that you'd like to see added to the Foundry, what would it be?
Interesting. There's so much. I mean, I could probably go on for hours trying to think. If I had to choose one particular item or technology that I would like to have added to the Foundry, it would be the ability to create paths, whether that means having an NPC follow you, or to have the NPCs being able to walk, between one console and another, or something along those lines. But being able to tell NPCs where to go, how long to take to get there, etc.
And lastly, do you have any advice you can give new Foundry authors? The
best advice is to go to Starbase UGC, hang out in the chat room, ask questions, talk to people. They've got a wonderful set of resources there, everything from tutorials to just having people available to bounce ideas off of. I think that would be the best advice I can give any new author. Find out about Starbase UGC and get involved.
Thank you for coming on tonight, Sorry. We appreciate your insights. We hope you come back and see us again soon. Before we continue with this week's episode, I wanted to deliver the only news that directly affects both the producers and viewers of Primetime UGC. This will be the last episode in which you will see Rogue Enterprise. Due to mounting commitments in his professional life, Rogue will no longer be able to co-host both Primetime UGC and our sister show Bite Size UGC. Though both shows will continue on, replacing him is impossible, and he will be sorely missed. We had developed a partnership that seemed to work very well for us as well as for our viewers. He simply cannot manage the time involved in these projects, and we fully understand that real life, as we say, comes first. So best of luck to you, Rogue Enterprise, in all you do. Thank you for your talents, creativity, and insight. Godspeed to you, sir. On a more positive note, Primetime UGC has now expanded its horizons to include hosts from 3 continents now. Filbones has joined me as the new co-host of Primetime UGC. We welcome him and look forward to all he will bring to our show. And that's all the news till next week. Please enjoy the rest of our show. Doctor, I would speak with you regarding some discomfort I'm having.
Sure, Sulek. What seems to be the trouble?
In private, if you don't mind, Doctor.
Don't worry about Nurse Borden, son. She's busy with her duties. That patient on the bed there went into cardiac arrest a few minutes ago. Now what's troubling you? Come on, out with it. I'm a doctor. There's nothing I haven't heard.
Well, I've been on this mission out in deep space for 6 years now. It was about a year before I got the assignment
Say
that
no more, son. I've got just the thing. Medical science has advanced to the point where we've almost licked the common cold. Blood fever? No problem. Not anymore. Now there's Vulcaden, Ponfar Reliever. It magically erases all symptoms associated with the Vulcan mating ritual.
I have tried medications before, Doctor,
But you've never tried Vulcaden. Just take 2 of these and you'll be right as rain.
You are right, Doctor. I feel 98.35% better already.
Ask your doctor about Vulcaden. There's no need to fear Ponfar.
Side effects may include weight gain, weight loss, hair loss, ear pain, stomach upset, diarrhea, incontinence, flatulism, irritation of the inner eyelid, round ears, and priapism, a mind meld lasting more than 4 hours. If you experience any of these, call your doctor immediately. Patients with an allergy to plomeek root should not take Vulcaden.
Hello and welcome to this week's Foundry Essentials. I'm Cerberusfilms, and today I'm bringing you a request from Brandon, or PWE Brandflakes as he's known on Twitter and on the forums. He's Stowe's community manager. Now what it really is kind of cheating a map transition. So you have 2 maps in one. You can kind of set it up so you're, I don't know, warping within a system, or just using it to traverse massive distances without the player actually having to go anywhere else. Here I have the create new map, so I'm just going to create a random space map, completely empty and devoid of all life. I should probably have deleted those, but never mind. So we go. I'm going to place a class D planet, and we're going to put it there. And we're going to put this there. So spawn point's here. This is going to be a very simple one. Now I've already placed, because this is actually the second time recording this one, I have 2 reach markers. One is for reaching the warp location. Now this is the location that I'm setting at the moment to go to warp. The second one is to drop out of warp. That's the other location which you will have to reach to then cancel the warp effect. Fairly straightforward, fairly simple. So on the map, normally you just place in the special and place in a marker, but since I've already got them here, I may as well use them. So reach warp, I'm going to place that one, save there. And then you drop out of warp, I'll just place it there. Now this is quite a long jump there. Quite long. I might reduce it actually, make it about that. It's a bit short. Now what we're going to need is something called the star streak effect. Now since I'm travelling northwards, we want the star streaks to go north to south, which would be handy. They're going in the same direction as you're travelling, otherwise it's kind of a bit weird and a bit spacey. So with this, what we're going to want to do is set it to appear once we reach the warp location, and then we want to be invisible once we have reached the drop out of warp location. And then I'm going to copy that, paste it, and move that one up there, because it's a finite size. So let's put that there. Basically creates a cylinder of star streaks, which is quite cool, I must say. Right, now, what else do we need? We're going to need some invisible walls. I'll show you why in a second. Let's find them. I'm going to use a tall 1,000-meter wall. You can barely see it. Right, so what size are these place markers? 2 kilometers. That's probably about right, actually. Now, I'm going to want to do the same with these invisible walls as I did with the place markers. I'm going to want, sorry, the star streaks. I'm going to want to set the states to object complete, reach warp location, and then to go invisible upon drop out of warp. Now, of course, you can set it to objective in progress and set it to the to the drop out of warp, because then that's when you reach it, and then set it to something like that. Okay. So now, let's see, where does that terminate? It terminates a bit too close, I think. So we're going to have to just copy that, paste it. I'm making this really rough, by the way, guys. You guys can find it up when you actually do it. If you do it. I recommend you do, because it's quite a nice thing that I think players would really appreciate seeing more of. Let's see, does that cover everything? Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah, it definitely does. Okay, so let's put it onto the other side as well. Nice bit of symmetry there. Always good to have symmetry, I was told not. There we go. So now we have the basic effect. Oh, and we want to hide this planet. Don't forget to hide the planet, because that could be a bit awkward. Right, drop out, that should be reach warp location. So now, once I reach here, everything should be hunky-dory. So let's give it a go. Here we are. So we're on the map. There's a pretty moon-ish. Should have put some rings on it. I did in the last video. Then that kind of died. Let me hide my chat. Almost there, almost there, almost there. Now I'm going to drop out of full impulse. Just because. Probably going to regret that. There we are. Just about reaching. And there we go. We have star streaks. We are at warp. Now if I shimmy across the right, see, now I should probably have made it slightly tighter, the invisible walls, but basically what it does is it stops me from leaving the warp field, which is always a good thing. I would warn you that excessive use of these star streaks can be very, very confusing. Even I'm currently a bit spaced out, shall we say, by the sheer amount of star streaks. You should also make sure they all line up so you don't get freaky effects happening. Sorry about the whirring if you're getting any of that. Wow, that just looks so pretty. Almost there, and there we go, at the end, and we have dropped out of warp. Now to finish it off, I'm going to place a station, which I love some of these stations. If I can remember the name of it. Oh, let's drop Deep Space Nine, just for the hell of it, why not? So Deep Space Nine is going to appear there. Badoom. Make it down a little bit. So let's see. that should now become visible once we drop out of warp. Now the last thing I'm going to show you is just a little extra stuff that I would quite like. I think someone's done it before. It's a fairly simple thing. I'm just going to copy that. No, I shouldn't copy that at all. I'm just going to place an invisible object. Let's make it large enough. Let's see about that size. And then about that size there. Okay, I'm just going to save the project. So now we've got these two invisible objects. Now, can you guess what I'm going to do yet? Maybe some of you. What I'm going to do is change these, or add in extra objectives rather. And it's going to be to interact with these invisible objects. That's the first one. And that is the second one. So, where are we? Invisible object is there. Okay. So this is going to be warp, drop out of warp. Say engage, drop out. This is actually impulse. Yes. Now, have you guessed what I'm going to do yet? Yes, I think you have. We're going to go to warp. Now, I don't quite know how this is going to work, but we'll give it a go. I'm going to set it to warp out Federation. Okay. Now I should probably put that one. Well, that's the way I should arrange it. Yes, that would make more sense, to be honest. Don't actually need drop out of warp there. That was a bit of a waste of time. So reach warp location. Now I'm going to so here we go. We're back. I just finished changing all of these to objective complete on the warp. Once you reach the drop out of warp objective, they will still disappear. So that's all good. Double check that I did that one. And yes, okay. So now, if this plays out properly, I should reach that location and then have to engage warp, essentially. So let's give that a go. Hopefully this will work. I think it will. So reach warp location. There we go. And press engage. See? That was fairly amazing, I thought, anyway. So we've now gone to warp. And there's no planet over there. We're now approaching the warp location. Of course, there are even more clever things. You can place a load of reach markers along the way, slowly bringing DS9 closer and closer and closer, or whatever is going on closer and closer and closer. Obviously, that would be a bit annoying if you're doing the entire system, but yeah. Get the idea. And there we go. We dropped out of warp. And there's DS9. Pretty cool. Let us know what you think. Thank you very much. You've been watching Cerberusfilms on PrimetimeUGC. Stay tuned.
On Tuesday, February 7th, Cerberusfilms and I had a wonderful conversation with Mark Valentine of Perfect World. It was a very lengthy conversation, so we're going to be bringing it to you in parts. Here is the first.
Well, my name is Mark Valentine, and I go by the forum name H2O Rat, or Water Rat, however you like to say it. And my position is actually, I'm no longer at Cryptic. I actually work for Perfect World now, and I am the video department manager. So I oversee all the trailer productions for both Cryptic Studios as well as Perfect World. Before we start in the interview, I should probably do the disclaimer that anything that I say, especially my opinions or comments about certain things I like to see in the game, don't necessarily reflect exactly what Cryptic is thinking or mean that they're actually going to happen. Keep in mind, I am the video guy. So that being said, what would you like to know?
Exactly what is your job title?
It is now currently Video Department Manager. So I oversee not only make the trailers and the videos that you see in not only Cryptic but Perfect World products, but I oversee the team too. I've got 5 other team members, and we're there full time making trailers.
Awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like a great job.
I know I want that.
Nah, everybody wants that job.
Right. Well, that kind of leads us into another question. Do you guys use the same tools as we use for like demo record?
It is basically the same tool. I do use the dev tool set, so it is a little bit more robust. Plus, I have, obviously I have all the dev commands, and I can make my own maps, and it's sometimes faster. I mean, we don't have a very long production period per trailer. Sometimes we only have a couple of days to actually write the script and shoot everything, edit, and get the sound mix. So it's sometimes faster for me to actually go and just make my own maps quickly and set things up and do it that way, which you can do somewhat with a Foundry, but you're definitely more limited. I've got the full dev tool set in my hands. Oh, it's a fun toolbox to play with, let me tell you. You can hours pass by. It's often I'm working on something, I look up and it's like, it's 5 o'clock already? Wow, I better take lunch.
Now, you say you have all the dev tools at your disposal, but what about like a video editing software package? Do you use anything like that?
Oh, of course. We use both Final Cut Pro and, well, actually it's just Final Cut now, and Adobe Premiere. I'm mostly on a PC. I've got 2 other people who are on Macs, but my background is visual effects. So most of the software that I've used over the years has been PC only. It's becoming a little bit more Mac friendly these days, but most of it is still PC only. So I stick on the PC, and on the PC I cut in Premiere, and I'm going to be moving over to Vegas pretty soon.
So that kind of again leads us on to how did you come to be where you are now? What happened?
Sure. Well, I guess I'll talk a little bit about my gaming background first. I started like most people that are in their 30s or older. I started with Pong and playing some really basic games, getting just enthralled by being able to move something on a TV screen, which, I'd never seen before. And that led me to, of course, the 2600 days, the Atari 2600 days, and then my first computer, which I grew up in Marin County, and there's lots of money in Marin County. So all my friends, we all, had computers at a young age. And allowed me to both experiment with programming as well as new computer games that were coming out, and played a lot of the early text adventure games, and it really kind of opened my mind of basically experiencing something that was not necessarily linear. Like, you watch a TV show, it's very linear. It goes from point A to point B. But these text adventure games allowed me to be a participant and to type in certain responses and get certain results. And I was just amazed. I was blown away with that. So one of the early text adventure authors that I really was inspired by was a guy named Scott Adams. He made a bunch of text adventure games, if you guys remember those, before Zork and some of the bigger hits. And from there, I started programming a little bit, making my own games. I made my first Lunar Lander game, Commodore VIC-20, and then started making text adventure games, basically on an Apple IIc, and publishing them up shareware-wise on CompuServe. And I think even to this day, I may have collected $20 to $40 in shareware fees for some of the games I published, which is kind of cool to see. And then from the Apple, I graduated to the PC, and another kind of eye-awakening moment was when I played the first Wing Commander on the PC. And that game was so cinematic compared to everything else before it. There were some games that had, like, I guess you could call it a cutscene, but this game really had the cinematic experience. It had a bunch of cutscenes tied together in a story. And then you were the key player in that story, and it blew me away. So from there, I obviously went to the console days, the Xbox, and back to the PC. I'm more of a PC gamer than I am a console gamer, though. I'm a huge MMO fan. Played pretty much all of them. There's a lot of them out there, but all the biggies. EverQuest, Star Wars, WoW, Conan, Warhammer, and of course all the Cryptic games. I love MMOs. I love the group aspect of MMOs, making friends online, playing together as a team. I also love shooters and RTS games. So that's a little bit about my gaming background.
What would you say was most challenging about your job?
One of the more challenging aspects to my job would be especially if you compare it to working on a CG film project or a commercial or something, would be the game is always in flux. Everything from content to effects to level design is constantly being worked on. So you don't always have access to the latest end product to shoot or to make your trailer with. What you do have access to is a design document that the content guys have to kind of give them vision of what they're building. And you just got to take a look at it and build particular scenes in your trailer that you feel will best match that design document. But, you know, I'll admit, I've kind of pushed the envelope on a couple of shots.
So, a lot of us want to know, how do we get your job, or a job similar to it? Because we like you, so we don't want you to be fired. But how do we get a similar job with you?
So, I guess it depends if you want to work on cutscenes, if you want to work on trailers. They're probably close to the same thing. I think the main thing is just to have a good background with film and to be able to showcase some type of demo reel where you understand editing and you understand composition is really important too in your shots, right? Understanding the rule of thirds and what makes a good shot, not just rule of thirds, but, you know, Z staging, and setting up an action and pacing, you know, study film and have a good demo reel with, you know, lots of examples. And like Al said, Al put it very, very clearly, where mod games, have some experience modding games and getting in there and playing with game engines if you want to work in the game industry doing these kind of things, because it's different than working in film. In film, you've got certain tools. In the game industry, you've got certain tools. And if you want to work in the game industry, it's important that you have some experience working with game-specific tools.
This will be a good one from Kirkbat. Do you have any favorite fan-made Foundry trailers or machinima in general?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of good ones, but again, I think Rachel Garrett's got a great visual eye. I love a lot of his shots. I know he puts a lot of effort into it too. I think that last 2-year trailer, he spent over 4 months working on it. Not full time, but I mean, a huge time span working on that particular trailer, and it shows. He's got some really beautiful shots.
What features, if any, would you like to be added to the video tools you have?
Wow.
It's a big question.
Lip syncing, which I've babbled about for about 10 minutes, would be great. That would be it right now. Is really, for me, would be to be able to lip sync towards WAV files. It's a struggle to get characters to look like they're actually saying what they're saying. For the Foundry, I'll kind of add to that too. And I was asked because I've got a mod background with Neverwinter Nights and Quake and a bunch of different stuff. The original EP on Neverwinter, Shane asked me to go in and take a look at our Foundry toolset. And, you know, I played with it over the last year or so, but I didn't really play with it till now. And then Craig asked me to go back in to take a look at it. And I think the power behind the toolset is it's really easy to use compared to other mod toolsets out there. You can build something, it's very intuitive, I think, of how Cryptic put that together. I think the downside is I think we need a lot more feature sets, a lot more. We call them FSMs. I think FSM stands for like feature state machine or something. I don't know exactly what that means. It's a programming term. But to do more things, like I built my first, it's actually published. It's not finished. The story is not finished. It was more like, let me put something together really quickly to see what I can do and kind of what frustrates me or what I think we need to add to the Foundry for Neverwinter and for Star Trek. So I actually do have a mission that's been published. Again, don't play it if you want any spoilers, because I will go back and rework the story so it makes more sense. It's not, it's a little scattered right now. You know, we can't there's no FSM for, disable this entity. So you can't disable a starship or disable a critter and have it then go to the next state. And that's another thing too, is I like to be able to chain more states together. Like, for instance, you can have somebody beam in and do something, but you can't have them beam out, right? Because you can't connect another state. It only goes down so far in their functions.
Oh, I think we had that once, way back at Red Shirts when Foundry was just coming out on SEO, and we were able to, I think, if I remember anyway, we were able to despawn NPCs at that point, and then we were told no because it breaks everything. So it was different.
I don't know why. I mean, again, there might be technical reasons. I'm a video guy, not a programmer, so there might be reasons, but there's got to be ways of making them, or either be able to put an animation on them, because the the beam outs is an animation, it's an effect, but then make the map move to an area that's maybe not on the map. So you can fake it somehow, right? Yeah. There's got to be some way of doing it, but be able to do that. But I would like to be able to chain more things together, because that particular function chain, and I'm going to use a compositing term. My background, actually, I did babble a bit about my history, but my background in film at least has been CG, but mostly compositing. And a lot of the compositing packages out there use a node-based system where you grab nodes and you connect them with what we call noodles. A noodle is the little string, right? You see the little strings, and they're just called noodles. I don't know why, but that's what they're called. But I like to be able to see us tie more functions together than we currently have, be able to drag more FSMs. First of all, we need to make more FSMs, but be able to drag more FSMs and build more robust chains of AI or events, right? So some of those would be able to disable critters or ships, a befriend state, so the entity is your friend, a be enemy state, so the entity becomes an enemy. I want to be able to set variables, and currently we can't even do this in the game right now. So devs can't do this. I talked to D'Angelo about it, and one of the most powerful things about the BioWare engine is, of course, you can set variables. So what does this mean? Well, you can do lots of different things with setting variables, and like the mission I'm building out, I want to be able to have a point where you have an option to save a Ferengi, and then down the road, say you play part 2 of the series, if you save that Ferengi, that variable has been saved to your character, it knows that, so the Ferengi is available in the next story. Kind of like in Mass Effect, right? You play Mass Effect, people die, or you do certain things, that's all variables. So that character may or may not be in the continuing story branch. So to be able to set variables would be awesome, not only for us using the Foundry, but the devs could use it as well. And of course, we need to be able to, once we set the variables, we need to be able to check them, and with a simple Boolean pass-fail check, right? So you'd have you'd be able to check your variable. Like, for instance, I would have a variable Ferengi 1 would be meaning that you saved them. Ferengi 2, maybe you didn't save them. And I could check for that, and if it passes that test, then I could spawn in that Ferengi, so he'd be there for the next story part. Well, I'd like to be able to have a function where you can go in and have a mission to destroy objects. I know there's some cheats around it where you can make a critter an object, but that's not the same thing. I don't want a console moving and chasing me, right? It's like we're Doctor Who, derelict. We're the little Doctor Who. Sorry for my science fiction lack of knowledge here. The derelicts. Derelicts, yeah. I mean, I don't want a console chasing me down the hallway, right? So
I've got a mission that does that, and it is quite surreal when you've got this thing that's chasing. Also backwards. It's like a lift.
Yeah.
But it decides that it's running backwards rather than running forwards.
That has to do with I believe it has to do when we build a 3D object, you give something a pivot point, and I think that's where they actually oriented the pivot point. So it just happened to be in the
funny, really, but it just looks like it's constantly reversing into you. And the other thing we do is, like, in space where we destroy star bases. I don't know whether they fixed it or not, but you used to be able to place like a couple, like some really weak mobs into a starbase or into an asteroid or something, and they wouldn't be able to escape from that geometry. So then you set it to despawn once you've destroyed all these.
Right. I mean, again, this goes back to me bowing to you guys, the fans out there. You guys are amazing. I mean, the stuff you can come up with and the workarounds you come up with, it's great to see the creativity we have out there in the Star Trek online grouping. You guys amaze me, constantly amaze me.
And you amaze us too, Mark, with the fantastic work you do for Perfect World, for Star Trek Online, and for us. So stay tuned next week for a special edition of Primetime, where we continue our exclusive with H2O Rad. But now, a word from our sponsor.
Block. Strike. Oh, by the sword of Kalis. Wake, little warrior. You should have taken that Batak in 4 moves. Ah, what? Klingons don't fly. Stop it right now. Wait a minute. Did you have a meal this morning before the contest?
No, Father.
No? Foolish child. That is why you failed. You must eat a good meal to keep your strength up and be alert. Come, I have just the thing. Kellogg's Rock Bites, the live cereal that contains all the nutrients a growing Klingon warrior needs. And they taste great too. Why, we've had Rock Bites from the House of Kellogg around our table for generations. Why, one bowl of this, and you'll be able to ground your friend out there into dust. You will have your vengeance, my little warrior. And remember the proverb, revenge is a dish best served cold, and Rock Bites is a cold cereal. It is a meal fit for Kahless himself, and it's part of an honorable breakfast. Now go out there and gut your enemy. Ha 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 ha.
And now for this week's edition of Published in Primetime. First up, on the Fed side, we have A Private Civil War by Sharav. We Are Back by Logitech 007. Atlas Affair by Nagoric. The Siege Part 2 by Cruise In. Ghosts of War Part 5 by NCC 89471. Positronic Problems Episode 1 by SDR 0129. Prologue The Solace Series by Jonic. And now the KDF side. We have Shipwrecked and Death of Honor by Greg247. And Here Today, Gone Tomorrow by Mazakin. And please, if you want your mission mentioned on PrimetimeUGC, just send us an email at mailbag@primetimeugc.com. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Primetime UGC. Join us again next Monday night for a continuation of the H2O Rat interview and much, much more.